I got Patrick McKnight from the newly rebranded Aura on the show, and time is of the essence tonight. We got to get him in and get him out. So let's get right to it. Good evening, everybody. I hope that you are doing well. I hope you're warmer than I am. It is finally, winter is here. Tomorrow, at some point on Wednesday, we will drop into the negative Fahrenheit numbers here in Minnesota. So I hope that you're doing well. I hope you had a fun weekend. And I don't know, I saw a lot of shows, a lot of people out vending this weekend. So I hope it went well for you. Big thanks to Snake Discovery here in the Minneapolis area. They host a show locally and it was good as usual. So I've ended that one on Sunday. So I always enjoy doing that show. Thanks. And a big shout out to them. If you're in the region, come check it out. It's a fun, it's got a hometown feel. It's definitely a small town show, but then like there's Emily and Ed and all the kids going wild and all that. But I get a really good mix of breeders, pets. It's like I had $40 normals on the table and, $1,500 triple hets with codoms. So anyhow, a fun show all around. That's the last in-person show of the year, and I think it's my last in-person show till February. I'm going to relax for just a little bit and dial back the shows, excuse me, in 2025. However, this Sunday, I'm going to be doing a Palm Street auction, 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you don't have Palm Street, check it out. It doesn't cost you anything. And I'd be really interested just to have your feedback. It's a little bit challenging this time of year. I'm going to talk to Patrick tonight about his experience on it. The shipping logistics are a little bit challenging, and then it being winter really adds to it. So we can talk transparently on it, but I've really been enjoying it. This will be the third Palm Street event that I've done, and no guarantee. Well, some guarantees. I will certainly have some. I'm thinking all the animals are going to do this. I think I'm just going to do all of the animals have a $15 starting bid and a $50 flat shipping, and if it's local pickup, even better. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to do like 10 animals again. And like I said, I think just $15 starting bid and $50 shipping. I might have a couple exceptions, but certainly most of them, if not all. So tune in this Sunday on Palm Street. I'll start promoting that on Instagram quite a bit in the next few days. Now that the show season is wrapped up for me and I can get here, focus here in the room a little bit more, get things back in order, I will have properroyals.com, Morph Market, Instagram, Facebook, and all the local stuff. I'll get all of that up to date in its various ways. But keep an eye on that, especially you locals. You don't have to wait for shows to do business, and you don't have to wait for other breeders to have to wait for springtime to ship animals in. I got you covered. You know what I mean? Check it out. We'll cover this on Proper Cup of Joe on Thursday, but I say finally, I've been talking about it for a little while. I closed on the car wash on Friday. I own a car wash here in Minnesota now. So if you don't know what any of that is about or means, tune in on Thursday morning on Proper Cup of Joe, and we'll talk about what it has to do anything with my snakes and the snake business. Next week on the show will be the guys from the REDLINE road trip. So I got Shane Kelly. I got Steven from Leviathan Snakes. Steven Capps. Sorry, his last name evaded me for a moment. We might even have one of those B Squad derelicts roll into the show unannounced. We'll see. And, of course, Robin Markland from REDLINE. And that's going to kind of kick off the holiday shows. The two shows after that are Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. No. That's a lie. Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve on Tuesdays. So I'm going to do those shows at 11 in the morning Eastern, maybe 10 o'clock here Central. We'll do brunch versions, and they'll just be kind of the fun. I'll do like the goals show. I'll do the pairings episode, and those will be the two that'll lead us into the new year, kind of my traditions. And then we'll get back to regular Tuesday nights in January. Okay. I think that's it for the announcements. Patrick McKnight is on the show, formerly of Chimera, that you've all come to know very well, and recently rebranded as Aura Reptiles. He's a busy man, and he's got his own thing kicking off at the top of the next hour. So we're on a little bit of a limited time schedule tonight, but he's a good dude, and he's working with another really good dude. So, we'll let it be for tonight. It just means he's got to come back, because actually, as I got doing more and more show prep, I was like, man, there's no way. I'm going to get going with Patrick, and an hour and a half is going to be done in an instant. So we're actually going to do it a little bit quicker tonight. So I'll spare the story of how I met and, interacted with Patrick. We'll get right to it. So please welcome, for the very first time, to the Proper Royal stage, that's Patrick McKnight from Aura Reptiles. How you doing, man?
Hey, bud. How you doing?
I am good. I didn't have to do the weird or very much of the weird, talk about the person in the third person while they're sitting in the green room. So
I love it. That's fantastic. It's always interesting how you hear other people describe their relationship with you or how they met or all that stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, at least now I know how they see it. That's good.
Right. Yeah. Glad I was here to talk with you about it and discuss that. Right.
That's fantastic. I love it, man. I love it.
How things going, man?
Busy, very busy.
Okay.
Yeah. So you kind of hit at the Palm Street auctions. We'll get to that for sure. Sold a lot of snakes through that. We did a Black Friday sale, sold a bunch of stuff through that. So over the past 2 weeks, probably shipped out 80 plus snakes. So
Good
it's
for
been,
you, man.
It's been a lot, dude. I wish that the values were what they were a year or two ago, but that's okay. You know what? That's all right. No complaints here. But yeah, just been really busy the past few days.
So what's your overall thought? Not overall, not what's the market? I know that's what everybody says, but from a business standpoint, prices change, values change, things go up and down. Is it a good thing that more customers can have better access to better caliber animals? Is it a bad thing for breeders? Is it just a new perspective? What are your general, like when you wake up and you walk into the snake room, is it, hey, the industry and the hobby is growing and there's more people doing really good stuff? Or is it, man, like you say, I wish the values were what they were a year or two or three or however many years ago?
Yeah. I think it was inevitable. We're in an industry where there's
a little bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah. You're selling animals to your competition. You're feeding the system. And in reality, unless you have a significant amount of income to come in and buy yourself to the top, it's tough to be there. And then to maintain that, you really have to have a lot of vision and luck. I mean, also there's luck. There's a lot of work and vision that goes into that, but there's also luck in hitting odds and stuff like that. I think it's cool for new people that are coming in, right? You get to buy some incredible combos for great prices comparatively. If you look at the hourly rate that a lot of us look at the hourly rate that you make.
Don't do that.
It's a weird mixture, right? Because there's times where you're like, man, I'm crushing it. And then there's times where, well, I'm making $0. Yeah, man, I think it's good. I think it's good. It's harder for the everyday breeder now. It's harder to be a business.
That's to catch the momentum and that, because
yeah.
I mean, I know you do a whole lot on technical business stuff, but I don't know what that point is called where you're working at it, you're reinvesting, you're working at it, you're reinvesting. And then one day you pop up and instead of the slow build, you're suddenly, but to your point, that's harder to get to now, huh?
I think it's really hard to get to because also I actually think the hardest part about our business is the waiting. Buy animals, you have to sit for, realistically, unless you're trying to jump the line and buy breeders, and generally you're not getting as much value for those breeders at that point. And there's a whole how that is instant gratification, but I think long term it's actually a trap and detrimental to your business. But assuming you buy hatchlings and you wait out the process and you get best bang for your buck as the hatchlings, you wait out 3 to 5 years to really start selling and producing, you've got this big window where you're just chewing through cash and you're not making money.
Yeah, there's nothing happening. Yeah.
And that is tough. And most people do not, and this isn't just a snake problem either. This is a business problem.
That's right.
Most people that go into new businesses don't account for the runway that it takes to operate your business outside of just your like capital costs, right? And so they don't do the math and say, oh, it's going to cost me $1,000 a month to feed my snakes. It's going to be another $200 to make sure they have bedding and water dishes, and then another $400 or $500 for electric costs. So all of a sudden now you have $2,000 a month in costs that you didn't account for. And unfortunately, most people are living, relatively speaking, paycheck to paycheck. And to take on a $2,000 load is a lot for potentially 3-4 years.
Not to mention, like, it's not as nice of a house mortgage payment as it used to be, but that's still a pretty decent mortgage payment. Like,
yeah, it's a lot, man.
Like,
it's a lot.
If you look at one and go, well, you could try and make a splash in ball pythons, or you could just buy a really reasonable real estate investment and rent it to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, you have that. I think something Stephen brought up to me, it may have actually been, so Stephen was hosting your show and Chase and I came on
it was
a year or so ago, maybe.
Year and a half. I was in Boston that night.
Okay. Yeah. And I think Stephen brought it up during that point. It's something I had never fully thought about. For most people that are coming into the ball python world, their investment ball python they buy is one of the most expensive items they'll ever purchase in their life, right? You have your house, you have your car. Most people, those are the two most expensive items. And so then when you come in and drop $5,000-$10,000 on a snake, that's a big investment that most people like really feel they need to get back very quickly. And so that goes back to the whole patience thing of if you're not, if you can't handle having that money float, like things get crazy, you know? And so I don't think that part's going to change really. And I think that the lower pricing and the harder it is to sell stuff actually drives people like that out faster, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it's a thing, you know?
Well, but that's part of the cycle. Like we see that in, I mean, there's a million analogies. It's almost like the sine wave of like the rabbit populations. They have everything they need. Then the hawks have everything they need. Then it goes up and it's not nearly as fast as rabbit generations, but I haven't been around long enough to see it, but I actually can see like sort of cresting that peak. I think I could be wrong. Check with me in another 2 years. We'll see. But
it's interesting. This market right now feels significantly more familiar to me.
Okay.
So I came in 2012. And when I came in, I was, a poor college student and made, $0 and 0 cents. My wife and I were living off of like $18,000 a year. And, but I was watching, all these guys sell bananas for like $50,000 and things were absurd.
Yeah.
And then, things kind of leveled out quite a bit. And there was a period, from like 14 to probably in my mind, 17 or 18 where you could get like, there were still expensive animals, but like you could get good value, like breeder clown females for like $1,000, which is actually really good value.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, right? And things got stupid.
It got weird.
Yeah, it got real weird real quick.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we're just kind of correcting back to where we probably would have been if COVID hadn't been a thing. I think the problem is a lot of people came in, spent a ton of money on animals at hyperinflated prices. And so now you're dealing with that realization that instead of like a 25 or 30% drop, you're seeing like an 80% drop, and it's shocking for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's real too. I mean, I was going to say like that's recency bias, but maybe it is that could be true too, but it's also somebody's real money that they had, and now they have this snake at this value, which is a little bit hard to stomach. But again, it's that 3 to 5 years you're talking about. Sure. That could be down now, but if you pop out, in 3 to 5 years, 15, 20, 30 good value babies, you're going to be fine.
I think that's where the importance of really picking the animals you buy and having a plan. So, and looking at not what can you make this year with it, but like what does 3 years down the road look like? What, and to go with that, like, I don't think personally, like generally speaking, if you're trying to figure out, if you want this to be a business and you're trying to figure things out for 3-5 years down the road, if you're buying a male that's going to produce best case scenario babies that are $500 today, a year from now, those are $300. 2 years from now, $200, and 3 years from now wholesale. That's a tough gambit. So you got to really work that male year one, otherwise you're in a lot of trouble. Whereas if you buy a male that like has the chance to make $1,500 or $1,000 babies year one, like all of a sudden now year three, you're looking at $300 to $500 babies, which isn't crazy, but you know, if you're doing the numbers right, you know, $75 to $150 to produce a baby, you're still profiting, which is good, you know?
Yeah. But those babies too should replace that male and make
Eventually.
better babies, right?
That's the idea.
Yeah.
That's the idea. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but yeah, it's the goal.
yeah, right. All right, well, let's go back to I had all sorts of notes and we went right off right into
off
it.
Track.
It was fantastic.
Right off track. It's what I do.
So, tell me about what do you have going on tonight? I think you said it's at 9:00 Eastern.
Yeah,
tonight?
9:00 Eastern.
Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, so I assume, based on the fact that he's a sponsor of the show, all of your viewers know who Charlie from Gray Rider is, or shedtesting.com. They better. Charlie and I have become really good friends over the past couple of years. I like to occasionally claim that I act as a consultant and help him out with stuff, and we talk through things, and I'd like to believe I'm moderately helpful with them. Anyway, I don't know, maybe a year ago I was talking to him and I was like, hey, like, you know, you talk all the time about customers wanting updates and all that stuff. I said, do you want us to start doing like a monthly show where like we just hop on and, you know, just talk about where the business is at with shed testing and all that stuff, right? It's a big interest of mine, his, blah, blah, blah. And so we kind of talked about it for a long time. And then maybe a month ago, I was like, hey man, like we really should do this. Like we're starting, you know, to crank out a lot more tests. Like there's good information that needs to get out now. We should have this conversation. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And we have Late to the Mic, you know, we have that channel and we thought about doing it on there. And then I was like, you know what, like Chris, you're sponsoring, you know, sponsored on Chris's show.
Yeah.
Chris had brought it up previously as well. I said, let's go ahead and just do it on Chris's channel because, you know, he, in my mind, like he had first dibs on it. And that he'd already talked to Charlie about doing something like this anyway.
Yeah.
And so, so the whole premise behind the show is basically just giving an update on where shedtesting.com is. And then trying to, you know, I come in with a little more science and give some insight into some of the questions people might have. And then explain, you know, maybe some of the things that we see and do some of the actual, like, you know, experimental stuff from behind the scenes. And we just talk about it. So, yeah.
Nice. I actually didn't know about it until I saw Chris Eaton's promo.
Yeah.
And so I'm here bebopping along, doing my show prep, thinking, yeah, Patrick's an interesting guy. He's got his hands in a couple different things. I see that show, and then I see, is it called like A Smart Dude and a Doctor or something like that?
A really smart guy and a doctor.
Are you a doctor? Are you a freaking doctor? What are you a doctor of, man? I didn't know that.
I have a PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology. So
hello. Okay, so this is a perfect show for you. Like,
yeah, exactly. So I did my PhD doing like lipid signaling and inflammatory diseases. So we looked at like ulcerative colitis, wound healing, sepsis, fun stuff. And then when I graduated, I went and I worked at I went and did a postdoc at a molecular biology lab where we studied viruses and DNA stuff and all kinds of cool bacteriophages and cool stuff. And then I went and worked in the pharmaceutical world, and hated it, and then did some biotech consulting, enjoyed that, but just, it's stressful. And then ended up getting a position essentially as like a bioinformatics consultant at the University of Virginia, where I do bioinformatics work, which for those who don't know is using like computer programs and like software packages to look at really, really, really large sets of data and find small changes in DNA and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's what you do now?
Yeah.
So I didn't even know you had, I thought like the animals and entrepreneurship was like your main gig.
So it's humorous. It's been a running joke since I was in grad school. Everybody says my PhD is actually my side job. So the snakes have always been the main source of income, I'd say. Like for a long time, I've always made significantly more selling snakes.
Okay. One of the rare people, like, let the record show, audience, like, aim for the stars, but let's just say that it's not totally common.
Yeah, no, it's a unicorn situation.
We call it an outlier. And
absolutely, right? Outlier. Absolutely. So the snakes have always been like, they've brought in a significant income for us, relatively speaking. And the PhD was just something. I love science. I love all that. It gives me something to mentally work myself out on. And then when I got the position at UVA, it was kind of a unicorn position in itself, where they don't really care where or what time of day or what happens with the work,
yeah,
as long as what they want gets done.
Yeah.
And so like, it's this weird balance where like I'll have weeks where I don't really have much to do, and so I'll only work like 5 or 10 hours, and then I'll have weeks where I just don't go to bed for a week between the two businesses. But it's fine because that's just part of the gig. But
is from a really nerdy standpoint, is that an employment situation, or is that a consulting?
It's so yeah. So officially, it is a postdoctoral fellowship.
Okay.
Anybody that actually is in science, they'll know that's essentially like a beginner role at an institution. I took that because the freedom it allowed me, and actually the benefits were better than actual faculty at the university I'm at. And since I don't want to be a career like professor or like research scientist on my own, I like the supporting role that I play.
Perfect. I'm
getting paid as much as a lot of faculty people do, and I get better benefits, so it just worked out. So yeah, it is an employment position. I am faculty at the University of Virginia, but I'm only on site once a week, and then I do, everything else is kind of on my own time. So generally I'm doing that job from like 10 at night till like 3 in the morning.
Nice. Yeah. No, when you said you do a few hours a week and then you get swamped, like that's like, so when I left restaurants, I picked up some hospitality consulting clients.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's a lot of that. So it's like, all right, I have time to focus in here doing what I want to do. And you said you used a great expression. It's great to mentally work out.
Yeah.
Something that's special to you. And I'm so glad I don't work day to day in restaurant operations anymore. However, I do love it, and it is something I was good at, and I figured out how to make money on those slim margins. And anyway, so yeah, when you said that, I was like, wait a minute, I gotta know more about this. All right, well, I'm glad I asked the question.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Chris called it, a smart dude and a doctor.
Yeah, it's good stuff, right? I thought it was really funny. I thought it was great. I was like, no, that's perfect, because it's also like how I feel sometimes, right? Like I think sometimes people associate like, oh, you have a PhD, you're really smart. I'm like, I mean, I meet the minimum threshold to have a PhD, but when I interact with a lot of people, I'm like, God, you're so much smarter than me. Well done. Like, you are really the smart one here, not me. So yeah, I loved it.
You could get a history degree from the University of Florida with a 2.1, my friend. I am living proof of that. Okay. And nobody has ever asked me my GPA, and I've always had a bachelor's degree and a minor in secondary education.
Yes.
That's all I've ever needed. So,
buddy, they told me when I got to grad school, they're like, you need a 3.0 to graduate. And I said, deal. And I graduated with a 3.01.
That's right, my man. Yeah.
Good enough.
Yep. See you there on graduation.
That's it, guys.
Get the paperwork together.
That's it.
All right. So what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the new brand Aura? You want to talk about Palm Street?
Yeah, whatever you want, man. I mean, we can gloss over Aura real fast. I was with MacKnight Stables is what I started at. That was the original business name. After a few years of doing that, Andre and I, Andre Kosovich, he was Capital Reptiles at the time. We had become friends in, I don't know, 2016, 17, something like that. And like became really, 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 really good friends. And we were doing a lot of business together. And then he lived about 45 minutes from my house. And so, we were doing a lot, helping each other with the collections and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so we ended up merging after a while. I think it was 2022, maybe, that we merged. And honestly, like, things were great. Like it's tough merging with a business partner when you've kind of been your own entity and like don't work well with others.
Yes, really.
It's hard.
It's just like a control thing, and not even like control of your baby. Like it's not like some people just want to control everything. If it's not, it's controlling what's so special to you. Yeah.
Special, and then also like when it's a big part of your income, like there's also just there's a lot of trust that comes in there.
Don't screw this up.
Yeah. And so honestly, like it went really well. Like we were very profitable. Like it was good. What we kind of realized after, a year and a half, 2 years was like, we just needed different things from it. We were different places in our life. what he needed from the business wasn't what I needed. And like when we talked about, can we fix that? The answer kind of came down to no, we couldn't fix it. And so I was like, well, if we can't fix it, like it either needs to be fixed or I have to walk away. It's one of the two, right?
Yeah.
And this wasn't like malice in my heart, hatred towards him, any of that stuff, right? This was just like truly like the epitome of it's nothing personal, it's just business.
Yeah.
And so we had that discussion and it was decided, you know, all right, let's, you know, I love you. You're one of my best friends in the world. And I hate that this has to happen, but it's going to happen. And so, yeah, so I walked away from the business as of November of this year. And if, you know, I didn't want to leave the snakes. I mean, I love the snakes. I love this industry. And so obviously leaving Chimera, which is a very well-known brand at this point, I had to start something new. And
that's a great name for a partnership. For a partnership, Chimera is a great name. I know I interrupted your great unveiling of the new name. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You know what, Andre crushed it with that name. So like Andre and I were struggling to come up with a name, and he came in and he was like, I think I have it. And I was like, I'm listening. Let's do it. And he was like, Chimera. And I was like, no questions asked, man. That's perfection. It was great. It was incredible. So yeah, it was good.
Okay. So now Aura, I'm always really interested in branding, and actually the topic on Proper Cup of Joe this week is going to be that topic where it's a brand name, because I got to name this car wash. So
yeah,
and like I think for myself, I always thought like brand names were like band names. You just wait till you're inspired and you spit something out and you hope it sounds good and makes you feel warm and fuzzy. But there is a process that can be used. But what did you go through a process, or did you just wait for the divine inspiration? What happened?
People
eat some mushrooms and see something an aura in the sky.
I wish my answer was good. I wish it was. Dude, it's ChatGPT.
There you go. Nice work. Work.
So I use a lot of ChatGPT actually in my university job, helping with coding and like also teaching students how to use it for their, you know, futures and stuff like that. And so one of the things like I've noticed is like it's good at just coming up with random stuff. And so one day I was like, you know, Molly was still working for me at the time and my wife, and we were struggling to come up with something. And I was like, you know what? And I just put like, give me 50 creative words. And it gave me 50 words. And then we took the best 10 of those and we said, okay, from these 10, give me 50 more. And we just went through an iterative process of like 5 or 10 rounds.
Right.
And then we got to like 5 words that we were like, okay, these feel like they could be business names. And then I just sent it out to like 30 people. And I was like, guys, let me know what you think. And the overall, you know, consensus was like Aura was easy to say, easy to spell, and sounded fun and sounded good. And I was like, perfect, let's go with it. Easy peasy.
So I went through the classic, like consider descriptors, purpose points, values, but I plugged all that into ChatGPT and I said, okay, from this, you know, constitute a purpose statement for me. And from that purpose statement, then give me a brand name that reflects
I love that.
this vision. And for anybody listening about ChatGPT and business, for myself, just one person speaking, it's great, but you still always got to edit it and put your own spin on it. And because if you don't, then it's soulless and you know.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
So yeah, I don't hold any disdain towards you for doing. I mean, it's another tool, and it's a good tool.
It's a great tool, and I'm not good at coming up with names, if we're gonna be honest. So it was kind of one of that thing, and it just, you know, we got there, and I was like, perfect, let's roll with it. So yeah, man, it was that's how we got there.
Very nice. I had one other question. So, and maybe you don't want to discuss this. I don't know. So I go to Instagram. I'm doing my show prep. I go to Instagram. I see Aura Reptiles. There's 10,000 followers already.
Yeah.
Is that remnants of a prior page that got
McKnight
rebranded?
Stables. Yeah. McKnight Stables.
All right. So yeah, very good.
Yeah. So when Andre and I merged, I had the McKnight Stables page, and then he had his Capital Reptiles page. They were both more or less the exact same amount of followers. There was this weird glitch going on with Instagram at the time where it wouldn't let us change our name. So there was actually what is currently Capital Reptiles. If you go look for it, was the original Chimera page. And then randomly one day, Andre just got a wild hair and decided to see if on the Capital Reptiles page, it would let him change his name to Chimera. And it did. And so his original Capital Reptiles turned into Chimera's page.
Gotcha.
And MacKnight Stables just kind of stayed, and it had whittled down to like 8,000, maybe 8,500.
Yeah.
And which happens. It was a dead page at that point. And so I was like, well, when we were talking about splitting things up, he was very generous and he offered me all of the socials, and I was like, absolutely not. Like, I was like, that I have a backup page, like, and it just didn't feel right. Like I was walking away from the business. It wasn't like dissolving anything, right? And so he kept all of the socials, and I was like, it's okay. I've got, I'm starting at like half of what I had with Chimera, but I mean, look, it's been since November and we're already up 2,500 followers almost. Like,
right.
It's all right. We're going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one detail in there that I've experienced as well, I have another page as well as Proper Royals, but you said that it was kind of a dead page, I'm guessing for the majority of 2 years.
Yeah.
And we hear all these horror stories that like your page is going to die if you don't if you're not a slave to the algorithm. It'll be there. It's going to be fine. Like it'll lose a little bit, but it's not going to, it's something that I've found, and there's a strategy to rebranding pages, I think, as well.
It's tough, man. I used to, like, if you look back at previous posts before the merger on like McKnight Stables page, like the engagement was really, really, really strong.
Yeah.
And then like now, like we're getting there where we're getting better engagement, but like it shocked me, even with like 8,000 followers, you get like, 7 likes. I'm like, buddy, we got to figure this out because this is a problem.
Right.
So yeah, it's a struggle bus, but no, you're right. Like the page can go to die, but it just takes some effort to revive it. That's all.
And it didn't die 15% in 2 years isn't exactly a tragic death either.
No,
so I mean,
no, absolutely not.
I see investment value in some people's pages that are getting out and don't know what to do with them. I've thought a lot about that. Actually.
I have had many thoughts as well on something similar, and the problem I keep running into is people value their pages more than they should.
There's that problem. Yeah,
I hope you don't run into that problem like I did, because there were multiple opportunities for me to buy pages, and it was either I looked through the users and it was like a lot of bots and bullshit,
right?
Or they would just come in and they'd have 20,000 subscribers and be like, yeah, I want $15,000. I'm like, no, like that's not how this works.
Yeah,
like, sorry. Like, good talk.
But that's across a lot of businesses though, right?
Yeah.
The owner's valuation. I mean, even this car wash thing, I was like, no, we got to work on this a little bit.
I mean, when you build it, right, it's your baby, and
that's
you
right.
think it's your baby, and there's a sentimental value that gets tied to it, whether you realize it or not. And I mean, we see that with snakes all the time right now, right? Like people list a snake and be like, this is $22,000. And I'm like, it's $17, but I like your enthusiasm. And it's like, I think Andre and I always did a pretty good job of that through the whole process of like removing emotion from pricing and just being like, it is what it is. And sometimes people would get upset with us and be like, you're tanking the market. And I'm like, no, we're not tanking the market. You're overvaluing it. And here's the numbers that back us up. Let's talk about your numbers. And most of the time, and look, I'm not going to sit here and be like, we got it right every time. We didn't. But like, I at least feel like if you have numbers to back up your opinions on the valuations, it's a lot easier to justify than just like you said, like letting the owner value it and be like, oh, I think it's worth this. And you're like, yeah, but why?
So talk about that a little bit. Because this whole idea of valuing snakes is really nebulous. So but you said pretty confidently you felt like you had some numbers or data to back it up. Like philosophically, I don't mean on a specific animal, but philosophically, where do you look at evaluation at, or start?
Yeah. So it starts with time, right? I have 10 years of sales data at this point, just looking at like fluctuations in pricing on animals and up and down, and over thousands and thousands of animals. So we have that. Also, we have early morph market when there weren't 50,000 snakes a day. It was much easier to go through and actually like manually look at data and like pulled pricing and all of that stuff manually, whereas now you really can't.
Right.
It's basically impossible. And so like we built up a database of like stuff there, and then regularly Andre and I would literally just scour morph market and look at, okay, this is what we're producing, this is what the market has done on this, and go and look at like sold listings and whatever, and figure out, okay, this is what it's kind of looked like over the past few years. What do we think this would be priced at based on the past few years, and then based on like how the market trends have been in general. And so, you know, you kind of look at stuff and you're like, all right, if overall this project's been decreasing by 17%, and last year they were consistently selling for us, you know, within a 2 or 3 month window at this price point, it's probably pretty reasonable to sell it at this price point, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
So it's kind of stuff like that. Also, just going in and like even going a little bit deeper, like on current stuff, right? And going and looking at the market and being like, okay, there's 62 animals listed at this price point. They've all been listed for 6 months.
Right. They're not worth that. Yeah.
They're probably not worth that at this point. So now the new question is, what do we do? I don't think you go in and like go at half unless like you have some really strong data to back that up. Like we had a situation where well, it was hypo clown pies a year or so ago, and we had them listed for like 65 or 7,500, and we weren't getting any sales, but we were getting, I don't want to say countless because that exaggerates it too much, but we probably on one animal got 15 or 20 inquiries with offers at like 4,500 or 5,000. And I was like, okay, let's use that assumption and let's drop the price down to like 5,500 and see what happens. And then stuff sells, right? And so you can use some of that as well. But you have to be willing to be like, if enough of the market comes in and asks for a similar price, like maybe that is the price at that point, and that's okay, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I see this is going to be a great lead in, because one thing you said on citing price history was literally one reference. Yeah. And everything runs through this one reference, and it's okay. They've done there from a business capitalist standpoint. They've done a phenomenal job on the one hand. On the other hand, it's hard to quantify things at show prices. At I used to ask people the same thing. Like I was really into baseball cards when I was growing up.
Yeah, huge.
The Beckett magazines, and it was like,
buddy,
but it was the one magazine, right? And we all waited for that 1 month.
The Beckett price guide.
I remember people used to write like hate mail. Hey, the grocery store got their Beckett's on the stands before I have it at my house, and I'm a subscriber. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know, man. But again, it was like this one voice that we assumed was the voice of God on prices. And I've enjoyed looking around and looking outside of that one voice. And I think Palm Street does a good job, or is an option for it. Live shows, Instagram, Facebook groups. Yeah. Almost like technically, I think everybody kind of does a D2C model, direct to consumer model. There are some wholesalers, but at like a pure D2C is really nice if you can bypass any other app. If you're truly working with, hey, I know what this person loves. I can call them up. I've got this. We've got a relationship. This is what you've been after and looking for. That's a really great opportunity. Like that's that pure D2C, and that's where some real value's at too.
Yeah, but unfortunately, like that's not 95% of the industry, right? Like realistically, most of the industry is like production, throw on, morph market, move on. And
it's none of the industry, which is why it appeals to me, because it feels like a white glove service, but it's like everything goes back to restaurant. It's like hand selling a wine. Do I just want to sell White Zin by the gallon at 50 cents on the dollar? Yeah. A lot of times I do. I can't stand at a table for 15 minutes talking about the cedar notes and hoping that they take it, right? Yeah, that they jump on it.
That
they love it. So let's talk about your Palm Street experience in just a second. We're like flying tonight. Tonight's like the episode on 115%.
Dude, I'm so sorry about this. I do feel legitimately terrible about it. Yeah,
I'm actually kind of enjoying it. It's like it's like all right.
It's like rapid dating, right?
Yeah,
speed dating. This is good.
All killer, no filler, none of this just like rambling crap. Well, let's just banter. Let's just get to it.
I love it.
High value for your buck tonight on the show. That's the theme. Look, so after this show, check out it's a one smart guy and a doctor.
A really smart guy and a doctor.
Okay, a really smart guy and a doctor. That is
Yeah.
going to feature Charlie from shedtesting.com.
Yes.
Go check out the show if you want to learn a little bit about what Charlie's about. Genuinely, the customer service, the personal attention, the adoration for business and the customers. I was just talking to Charlie this afternoon. I took a moment just to tell him, like, those are all the reasons why I want to work with you. And I'm so happy to be working with Charlie. So go check that out and give him a shot on the shed test. Over 32 ball python genes currently. And I happen to know he has more that aren't listed. So if you want something, just ask him and he may or may not have it. But VPI Xanthic, Wookiee Sunset Clown, Puzzle, Ultramel Zebra, Yellow Belly Complex. And I think can we give a little sneak that there's one right around the corner coming out, or do we want to hold off on that?
I was told I'm not allowed to talk about it yet. We might talk about it in about 20 minutes though. Yeah,
you should check that out. It's one that a lot of people have been asking about. I promise you that. And it's without giving away, it's very challenging sometimes to identify as a single gene expression. Let's leave it there. How about that, huh?
That perfect. I like that. No, that's a good tease.
That's how we tease stuff right there. All right.
I like it.
All right. Well, Charlie's got a little tab tonight for taking you early. You can tell him to throw another one on.
Don't worry, I'll let him know.
That's the tease, the Shira tease right there.
I like it.
REDLINE Reptiles. That is Robbie, Richard, and Greer, South Carolina. He's focusing on clown combo ingredients. Right now on Morph Market, he's got a male DG. He's got a visual male DG clown that's currently on Morph Market, as well as some clown DG zebra triple project ingredients as well. So go check out Robbie. He's doing really cool stuff, and he's a great guy to do business with. I was doing business with him before this round of business, so to speak. Also, if you go to REDLINE Reptiles and you sign up for his email list, he gives you first dibs on all animals there. There's no cost to it. Obviously, he's not selling your email and that stuff. And he does have a YouTube channel as well if you want to get to know him. So that is the letter RJEN Reptiles, Robbie Richards, Greer, South Carolina. Portuguese pythons, Danny and Renee Rocha. I hope you guys are good in California, man. There's earthquakes, there's fires, but they're making some killer stuff through all of the challenges out there. Chino, California. Dark genes with recessive single, double, and triple combos. All of my Ultramel Pied ingredients projects are from them. Very cool stuff, and I'm excited to work my super blackhead Ultramel into that project this year. Currently on Morph Market, you can find Ultra Clown combos, puzzle project stuff, Hypo DG, VPI triple projects, as well as genes like Blackhead, Het-Reda Xanthic, and GHI in there. That's Portuguese pythons. Ball Labs is Trevor in Aurora, Colorado. Big thanks to Trevor. I'm so proud and thankful that very rarely does a logo change over. And Trevor said, you know what, I'm going to stick around for a little bit. So thank you very, very much. Personal on that. He loves his high-end genes, but also some like forgotten genes that maybe people haven't worked with in a long time and that you might not see in current hip things, maybe like puzzle or something like that, or a codon worked into puzzle. But he is working puzzle, Ultramel Clown, VPI Xanthic, Tri-Stripe, Monsoon, Zebra, and Sunset. And I love this story about Trevor. He's one of the very few licensed rodent breeders in Colorado. It's a little harder to do it the right way, And I think Patrick would agree, doing things the right way usually doesn't happen in a vacuum. So if he's doing the rodents the right way, he's probably doing the ball pythons, probably personally doing things the right way. It's a good sign. So go check them out. That's Ball Labs. Last but not least is Chris at B and S Reptilia, long time, well, the very first sponsor on properroyals. Thank you. Also current partner at Tinley. We vend together there, our table there together. And we got a couple investment animals, not merge the whole business, but a couple animals that we've invested in together. But Chris at B and S Reptilia is Reptilia because it's ball pythons, it's blood pythons, locality boas, colubrids, pituophis, if that means something to you, bull pines, bull snakes, and pine snakes. And he will help you with the legalities of getting those to you in your respective state. And he's also the regional distributor of the chipper and he and the chipper are looking for more regional and local distributors. If you're interested in exploring that opportunity, you can get in touch with Chris, and all of the sponsors information is linked down below in the description. We didn't get to Redline shipping. What am I doing? Redline shipping. My goodness. Hey, look, the temperatures are getting weird. Is it safe to ship? You got Christmas time to figure out. A lot of things flying through the air right now. You want your animals safe. Check out Redline Shipping. They're going to help you through all of it. You could call customer service. It's reptile people working for reptile people. And if you haven't tried them out or used the code yet, use the promo code PROPER5 to get yourself $5 off of your next shipping label at Redline Shipping. Boom. There we go.
Got it. I love it so much. Those are all great people, man. Love it.
I like, thank you. And I really do genuinely like the idea of good people doing good things together. And that's something that I'm incredibly proud of with this group of supporters.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a business part to it, but if I could choose, and I can, who I do business with, I'm proud to do business with these folks here.
I love it, man. That's
genuinely
fantastic.
mean that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
So Palm Street. Okay, so we can here. Well, these will be our like points that we can rattle through here in about 10 minutes.
Let's do it.
What attracted you to it? What's been your feeling on it? And then I love the idea that we overreact to new things in the short term and we underappreciate their effect in the long term. Is that going to apply to Palm Street? And if it does, what's your opinion now? And what do you think it'll be? There we go. There's the whole thing.
Let's do it. What attracted me to Palm Street? I enjoy interacting with people. I'm very extroverted. I crave attention as well. It's an issue. And so, we do Late to the Mic. We did, Chimera Street of Trust. I do a lot of live stuff anyway. And one of the hard things about doing like YouTube and live is really monetizing it, right? Like you can, but to monetize the channel takes a lot of effort and then build up an audience base big enough that they come in and like do auctions, things like that. It's tough. It's a lot of effort and it's doable, but it's effort. Palm Street gives you that opportunity to basically do live streams where you can auction stuff off in real time with a platform that's designed for auctions, right? That you don't have to manage the bids yourself. You don't have to have somebody backstage managing the bids. You put the animal up for auction, they bid on it, it tracks everything for you. So it gave me that ability to interact with my customer base live, do lives, show off animals, egg cuttings, things like that. And then also, through the whole process, auction off animals, which is really nice.
And to be clear, I'm not affiliated with them. I like the platform. Are you affiliated at all?
No.
So just us talking our experiences as some early adopters, just to be totally transparent. There's a lot of affiliations I'm proud to have, but I will always try and explain where those are. Where those
I would love if they would give me free memberships and pay me, but they're currently not doing that. Yeah,
we can make space for a logo if we need to.
Guys, I'm open and available. You talk to me. So it's been good. Pros, we are getting better value on what I'd say is the really, really low end stuff. So these are animals that are, I don't want this to sound negative. They're animals that are like a step above wholesale. And what I mean by that is like realistically, like selling like single gene and double gene, like multi-het males, things like that. It's not always the easiest, right? You list them on Morph Market for $150, $200. They sit for 6 months and then hopefully they sell. You've invested a lot of time, energy, food, all that.
Yeah.
That's not ideal. So then, especially at like a size like, we're at, you have to do some math and say, is it better to sell that animal at $150 or is it better to wholesale it at $50? You do those kind of maths and some of those animals make it out the door. Something like Palm Street, you're not going to get $150 for it, but I'm going to get more than 50. And if I can get 20, 30, 40, 50% more, that's a huge win. The customer gets a good deal on the project animal. And I get more than I would have wholesale. And that's a win, right? We both people win in that situation.
Yeah.
And, generally speaking for like what we're selling, I don't feel like we're tanking any major projects because most of what we're selling are projects that have been around. And what I found is like, for me on Palm Street, there's kind of an upper limit of like $500 to $600 of what people are willing to really dive in. I know more expensive stuff is sold on there. Jersey Guys balls, they've sold some more expensive. It happens. I've done 2 so far. I've sold about 45 animals in those 2. And anytime I brought an animal in, with the exception of one specific animal, anytime I've brought an animal in and it's been starting bid at more than $400, it hasn't sold. And I just feel like that's kind of that balance there.
Yeah. We were talking, we ended up on a phone call, maybe even about this, or maybe it was about Palm Street, but and that seemed to be both of our experience, where like some places are good for maximizing your top end, but you can also find a lot of value in bringing up the low end.
Yes.
And I think it's probably magnified for you in the scale and the volume.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's huge.
If you could bring your bottom end up 15, 20% over hundreds of animals throughout the year, that's going to move the needle on your numbers at the end of the year.
It's a huge difference.
You know, for me, it's going to be nicer. Don't get me wrong. It's still nice to do, but I'm not at that scale and that volume yet. That's an economy of scale type of thing.
Yeah. We've also found though, like I'll sell some animals on Palm Street, and then like I'll have people reach out on Instagram or whatever else and be like, hey, do you have anything with this project? Do you have any animals that would go with this? And we've had, 5, maybe 10 like add-on sales outside of Palm Street because of all Palm Street lives. And I've had people that they didn't buy an animal on Palm Street because they didn't see the one I wanted, but then they reached out and they're like, hey, you mentioned you have something in this project. Can you send me some pictures of stuff? And, we've made sales. So like, it's just another avenue to interact with the customer base and make sales. And, it's a win all around.
I think you bring up, regardless of Palm Street, I think you bring up a great point. Interacting with customers leads to so many opportunities. So specifically to Palm Street, I had somebody purchase an animal on Palm Street and then say, could I send you a little more cash and upgrade that? What would you take for this one you see over here?
There it is.
And and truth be told, that even raised the sort of the Palm Street level of that other animal. It wasn't like I was like, well, sure, you could do that one for the same, $50, but no, it wasn't that. So that brought value. I definitely have seen the people that say, man, I can't believe I missed out on such and such. And I go, well, I got
fortunately, I've got something similar.
Yeah, we could talk about this. Yeah. And that happens with shows, that happens with people like, and again, it's just interacting with people. Oh, you know what? I don't have it at the show, but I got it at the place and I'm local. Like I always really, really value, we're not going to get to it tonight, but that was going to be one of the topics tonight was show vending. I know you steer away from it. But I think
there's a lot of value in it. It's just not my cup of tea, right? That's there's a lot of value in it. I think it's an important thing to do. I'm fortunate that I don't need to, and I don't like to do it. So that combo there, like it would be one thing if I like to do it, I would do it. I don't enjoy doing shows. I'd rather go to a show and wander. I feel caged behind a table. And I don't have to do it. And so I'm fortunate in that sense.
It's kind of backwards for me. I actually really like the small local like Tinley's fun for a lot of things, but for me, not really for sales. For the small local shows where I could get to know people, they could call me from a local standpoint. The old joke about if I can get them to buy 3, they'll buy 10, especially if I'm their local guy, So, okay. Patrick, it's been a blast. I know you've got commitment.
Yeah. I really am sorry. We're going to do this again. I'll have you on link to the mic. We're going to have you on link to the mic. We're going to do it.
All right. Well, let's do that. And then is this, how often is this, and I'm sorry, one really smart guy and one doctor, how often is that going to be on?
It's going to be once a month. So we're just going to do a monthly show. And that, I don't think we need to update the community more than that. I think that's a big enough window that we can share the news that's going on, and it's frequent enough that people can have an idea of what's going on.
So if we do meet again on this show, we could just choose the 3 out of the 4 Tuesdays that we don't run into this in the future.
Yes. You are running into the problem that Molly ran into regularly with me, and that is keeping me on a schedule that doesn't mess things up. I am so sorry.
That is not my responsibility, pal.
Trust me, it is my responsibility, and I messed it up, and I'm sorry. So
there's one thing I've found, there's always another Tuesday. And if the time in our universe comes that there's not another Tuesday, this is going to be the least of my concerns.
We have bigger issues.
So we're awesome, good, man. All right. everybody go check out Aura Reptiles, definitely on Instagram. You anywhere else on any other platforms just yet?
I'm on every platform. I haven't put out YouTube videos yet. I need to. I have stuff that I've started filming. I just need to actually sit down and edit some footage, and I just hate doing it. So here we are.
Cool. And the show tonight is on the Fat Man Nation channel, right?
Yes.
Another good friend of the show. We're good on that.
Love Chris. Yeah, man.
And next week, the Redline folks and guys, we'll do the same time, same place. Chris Eaton, Patrick, thank you so much. I'm going to go check out your new show. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Appreciate it, bud.
I got ahead of myself. I didn't even have the music ready. Let's try. This is like an encore. They called us back. Thank you. You guys.
Here we are.
Great. Cheers. See you next time. Same place, same time.